I want to welcome everybody this morning. My name is Kenny Holloway. I'm the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and have the pleasure of serving as the Municipal League's legislative chairman. As a league, we have several topics that we will focus on this legislative session, including the impact that PERS has on our local towns and cities. This morning, we are going to hear from other mayors, as well as myself, about the concerns over the proposed increases in the PERS board. First, I would like to introduce our current MML president, Mayor Toby Barker, from the city of Hattiesburg.
Thank you, Mayor Holloway. Good morning, and thank you for coming. I'm Toby Barker, Mayor of Hattiesburg, and I have the privilege of serving as this year's Mississippi Municipal League president. I also had the honor of serving 10 years in the Mississippi legislature, and I congratulate all the representatives and senators on the new term, particularly the new members. The legislature has been very good to municipalities and local governments in recent years, particularly on the issue of infrastructure, and we thank the House and Senate leadership for their efforts. But as a new session and term dawn, cities and towns across Mississippi face a new fiscal threat, one whose effects will also spill over into state agencies, school districts, and county governments. And that threat is the increasing cost of the public employees' retirement system, particularly those costs that are being passed on to cities and towns through the employer contribution rate. In the last few years, the PERS employer contribution rate has been 17.4%, and that's the percentage that municipalities, school districts, counties, and state agencies all kick in along with salary and other benefits for each of our full-time employees. And it's no secret, and it was no secret when I sat on the House Appropriations Committee, that the long-term outlook of PERS is volatile. It's a system that relies heavily on good years in the market and consistent good years in the market. And it's one of whose long-term unfunded liability has been the cause of concern for some time. At its August meeting, the PERS Board of Trustees voted to increase the employer contribution from 17.4% to 22.4% over a 3-year period starting July 1st of this year. Now, that increase followed several months of haggling, and we appreciate the phased-in approach that the board took. But even with a phased-in approach, going from 17.4% to 22.4% marks a 28% increase in the retirement costs that cities have to pay out for employees. In Hattiesburg, it's about $1.5 million new dollars that we'll have to come up with over a 3-year period, and that is a recurring cost the City Council will have to budget for every year. But the more concerning move made by the PERS Board was to lower the assumed rate of return from 7.55% to 7%. It was a fiscally prudent move by the board, whose members are doing what they are charged with to take care of the system. However, this move has far-reaching implications for cities and towns, and in turn, our residents and businesses. When the PERS board made that vote, the executive director was very honest about what this would likely do to that employer contribution rate, the same one that's already going to 22.4% in the next 3 years. He said that the move to go to 7% with the assumed rate of return would very likely push the employer contribution rate to 27% over the next 5 years. And I want our partners in the House and Senate to know that a 27% employer contribution rate would be devastating for cities and towns. In real dollars, it means my city would have to come up with $3 million of new money annually to pay the employer share for existing employees, and that accounts for a 55% increase in our retirement cost. And for each city and town represented by the leaders behind me and around this rotunda, this massive increase in employer contribution would prove disastrous. Because if cities are having to pay out that much more, where do they get it? They raise taxes. They cut services. They can't give raises to first responders and other frontline workers. The effects would be catastrophic for many communities. Oh, and by the way, counties and school districts will be in the same situation making the same hard decisions. So imagine having constituents and businesses back home getting hit with property tax increases 3 times from their city, their county, and their school district. Look, we get the unfunded liability, but the reality is that continued increases, whether the 22.4 or ultimately the 27 that's being talked about, these increases will usher a monumental shift in paying for retiree benefits to the local level. And if there was ever an unfunded mandate, this is it. Also, we know we've heard talk of a fifth tier, and understand we appreciate that thought as well, because that's going to help, but it's going to help decades from now. It's not going to help right now. And we, as Mississippi cities and towns, as governments closest to the people, want our partners in the House and Senate to understand the gravity of this situation. We want an honest conversation about what past actions and lack of action have done to the system. But moreover, we need legislative action that can protect PERS and its members for the short term and the long term, while also preventing multiple rounds of local property tax increases. Shared sacrifice is what this moment requires. And we're fortunate today to have a few other mayors who will put this into context and in very real terms for their cities and towns. And we're going to hear now from Collins Mayor Hope McGee Jones, then Greenwood Mayor Carolyn McAdams, then Greenville Mayor Eric Simmons, and finally Moss Point Mayor Billy Knight. Mayor Jones, we'll start with you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I too am looking forward to retiring one day and being part of this process, but not on the heels of my residence in the city of Collins. We have taken a hit from this. We've had to get some setbacks. We've had to look at the budget again and figure out how we're going to come up with, over this time frame, when it gets to 27.5, about $500,000, that we don't know where it's going to come from. So we're going to have to probably look at raising taxes. We're going to look at, not hiring enough employees to cover the things that we need to do in our cities. And we need to, a lot of the projects, the infrastructure, we were so happy about the infrastructure bills that are coming down, the monies that were coming down the pipe that were going to help us to do the things that we need to do with our infrastructure. Now we've got a setback, and it's not good for our city. So we're looking forward to our legislators coming together and solving this unfunded mandate for our city. That way we can continue to move forward and not take steps back. Thank you.
Okay. A little bit of an issue here. Hi. Good morning. I'm Carolyn McAdams. I'm the mayor of the city of Greenwood, and I also served last year as the immediate past president of MML. Thank you for allowing us to come before you this morning to discuss what is going to happen to the budgets of Mississippi cities and towns if proposed increase in PERS is implemented. Right now, the city of Greenwood is paying PERS $1.2 million annually. The planned increase will bring that up to $1.9 million, and these numbers only reflect today's staffing. Like many of our communities, we are understaffed, so that increase will only grow as an additional staff are hired. This is a huge challenge as to where we will find the funding to deal with this increase being mandated for Mississippi towns and cities. Greenwood is already faced with the burden of maintaining and keeping our hospital afloat. The only way we can generate this kind of additional revenue is by increasing the millage rate and expanding the burden on the taxpayers. I think it's unfair because this is a governmental issue, financial issue, and we should be dealt with this by the PERS board and our legislatures. I will say that in previous meeting this morning, I was very encouraged by the remarks made by our legislators willing to come forward and help us with this. So just know that myself, the City Council, and the City of Greenwood is willing to do everything in its power to not have to increase taxes, limit our spending on our capital budget, and decrease employees. So thank you again for this opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you.
Good morning. Today you will hear loud and clear from Hattiesburg to Ocean Springs to Greenwood to Greenville the negative impact this PERS increase will have on cities, towns, and villages in Mississippi. In Greenville, depending on the month, the city currently sends to PERS between $250,000 and $300,000 a month. That's $3 million just to date before the proposed increase. This increase will add in a neighborhood of another $260,000 to our budget. The rate we are paying now is helping to further put Greenville on the road to financial disaster. With our decreasing tax base, a decreasing population, and astronomical infrastructure costs, the city finances are already at a perilous position. And that's to every city in this state. Cities, towns, and villages in Mississippi should not be held captive and have to cover the poor financial decisions that the PERS Board continues to make. It is one of the contributing factors today that is helping to hurt cities, towns, and villages in Mississippi. And today, we say, get it right. Get it right. Get it right. Because when we have to send that money to PERS, we can't fix the pothole down the street. When we have to send that money to PERS, we can't help our children in our school districts. When we have to send that money to PERS, we can't help our healthcare systems. We need you to get it right today in 2024. We stand proud to say that we're going to make the right decisions for our cities and towns. We need you to make the right decisions that negatively impact us today. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. I'm Billy Knight, Mayor of Moss Point. Moss Point is 12,230 citizens. With the loss of the industry that we've had over the last 20, 30 years, even though we're working hard every day to replace that industry, our general funds cannot afford to take on this unmanned mandate. So we have no doubt that working with our legislators, I have confidence in the leadership of Mayor Holloway and Mayor Buckley that working together that we will be able to solve this problem. So what we have in Moss Point is an issue that we have to make a choice of how are we going to satisfy this mandate. That's right. Do we not fill these key positions that we need? Do we lay people off to take care of this mandate? Do we raise taxes to take care of this mandate? Do we cut services to take care of this mandate? We locally have to make these decisions on a daily basis. Right now, PERS is costing us over $100,000 annually to take care of this mandate. Because our budget is already strained, we don't have money just laying around that we can pick up to take care of this. We have to figure out how do we take care of this mandate that we did not budget for. We did not plan for this. So working together with our legislators at this point, I have no doubt that they realize that we're all in this together. We want to make sure that we take care of our retirees, but at the same time, there's got to be a decision that we have got to make an adjustment with this PERS plan. We cannot keep it at the rate in which it is going right now. So with the help of the legislators and the leadership of our MML, I have no doubt that this year, we're going to come up with a solution to solve this problem. We want all of our litigation to understand we're here to work with them because we're already together and we have to solve this problem together. It's got to be a win-win for all of us. We want MML to win, we want our municipalities to win, and we want our retirees to win. It's a win-win that we've got to come to. Thank all of you for being here today, and let's support our leadership.
Thank you, Mayors. The City of Ocean Springs has 190 full-time employees. If the employer's share goes to 27% to cover the PERS increase over 5 years, my city will need to raise taxes by 11 mills to cover the $2.4 million additional funds needed just to cover the city's portion of PERS. Tell your citizens you're going to raise taxes 11 mills and see what happens come election time. The increase will also affect our government agencies in my community, including the Ocean Springs School District. Our school district currently is maxed out in the 55 mills with their operating budget. How will they absorb this increase? Our hospital system in Ocean Springs is owned by Jackson County. All of us know the struggles in the medical profession, and this would only compound those struggles. Like other entities, our city will need to be creative on how to cover this increase, which includes no raises for city employees and makes us less competitive, especially in public safety. This might force our city to outsource positions and have less employees. This could potentially raise water bills and enterprise, but also add mills. Our city cannot absorb the increase without it affecting the residents. We encourage our legislators to work with MML on our concerns. This leadership will work hard with the legislators. I want to thank all the mayors here, all the people who showed up. It's a great crowd. And we'd like to just say, have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
I think every city and town faces the same thing. It's how do we pay for roads and infrastructure, water, sewer? How do we maintain home rule? How do we make sure that our cities have what they need in public safety? And so we're going to come up here and we're going to work with our House and Senate members to continue trying to increase and maintain that support, that state support for infrastructure. We're going to make sure that we're trying to preserve home rule and there aren't preemption laws that keep us from governing what's best for our communities. And if we can do those things, I think we have very willing partners on the House and Senate sides.
Right now, the most important one is the PERS issue that's going on, the retirement service. We are facing trying to come up with the amount of money that it's going to take to fund that project, to fund our retirement. And it's just a burden to our cities because our residents are going to have to suffer because of that. We're going to have to maybe cut some things that we wanted to do for them. So it's just a burden.
Obviously, it's the PERS issue. It's weighing heavy on everybody. You know, the unknowns of it, what it actually will roll out, how much it's going to actually cost the city. It's hard to budget. And we've got a lot of projects we're working on in Ocean Springs, a lot of capital projects, and we're in the middle of them. So it's just the uncertainty of this PERS.
Well, we have the issues that are coming up concerning the small municipalities grants. We want to make sure that's fully funded. Homestead exemption, we want to make sure that's fully funded. So there's some things that some major things that the cities are looking forward to our legislature doing this year.
There's been talk about, the ARPA money coming back, and as soon as we get this PERS situation squared away, the Lieutenant Governor said we can deal with some more ARPA funds, which will help us with our infrastructure, water, sewer, streets, drainage. So I think that's probably the two main priorities that we're going to be dealing with. We got a list of about 10 priorities, and we'll never get through all 10 of them, but we're just going to try to, focus on the two big ones and then hopefully work on some of the smaller ones too.
It's so important that mayors and city councils and board of aldermen find their way down to Jackson or up to Jackson during the legislative session on a consistent basis, and they're keeping the conversation going with their individual lawmakers, because as a former House member, I can tell you, legislators listen to their local leaders because they're the government closest to people.